Hello, good evening, and welcome to the latest Forza Italian football podcast, the only Italian football podcast bringing you into Italy and into the Serie A stadiums every single week. As ever, I am your host, Conor Clancy. And joining me this week, once again, Kevin Pogorzelski. Kev, hello.
Hi Connor, how are you?
I'm not too bad, actually. I'm a lot better than I was last week, put it that way. Last week was a horrendous weekend, and this week I made it to Centrale in time to get the train back to Parma, so I have no complaints.
Good, good.
And also joining us is Vito Doria. Vito, hello.
Hi, Connor. Enjoying the podcast so far, and once again, I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys despite the latest results. So, I'm not hiding in a cave despite what went on during the weekend.
Yeah, well, look, if we were going to be hiding in caves, Vito, it would just be Kev here on his own this week, so we can't do that. But I am going to make you start with the game that finished at about 8 o'clock this evening, Italian time, which was Inter 2, Sampdoria 1. And this was not just Inter winning, Kev. This was Inter without Mauro Icardi. They didn't need him.
No, they didn't. I thought it was a really, really entertaining game, particularly the second half. You know, both sides were willing to go forward and attack each other. And yeah, I don't know what Mauro would have thought looking on from the sidelines alongside Wanda. I think there was some question marks as to whether he would be there. And I know you tweeted the fans' reaction when he was shown on the big screen.
Is it safe to say that they weren't too pleased, Kev?
They weren't too pleased, and dare I say, it's about time that they cut their losses with him really, and just gave everybody a little bit of a fresh break.
We will get to Icardi in a minute, but I want to start by talking about the players that did actually play, because I think we will be guilty of it in about 5 minutes, but Icardi has kind of taken over everything that's gone on at Inter, and I do want to give some praise to the players that played, because Inter looked more fluid than I've seen them all season. I said this in my post-match video as well, but this is one of the most impressive attacking performances that I've seen from them all year, and it came without their best striker. Matteo Politano, Ivan Perisic, and Lautaro Martinez were kind of a front three with Rajan Angolan operating there as the 10. And Vito, they looked good. They were swapping positions. They were moving around. They looked to take more risks, and all that was missing for most of it was that final finishing touch.
That's what it definitely looked like, especially in that second half. With both teams going at it, it seemed that Inter played with greater confidence. And I just remember the previous times on the Spalletti where he talked about mentality and that the mentality was not good enough in certain matches. Here it was right, and the style of play really came off. This was, like the Spalletti of yesteryear when he was at Roma. This is the type of football they should be playing from now until the end of the season. And you could argue that without Icardi, that's why they're playing with this confidence. Perhaps he is the problem, and we'll talk about that later, as you said. But maybe without him, this has galvanized the team, and it's created, greater unity or greater trust within each other.
They looked like they had a sense of purpose as opposed to previous weeks.
Yeah,
They
it's
did
kind of
look
strange.
sluggish other times.
There's the basketball theory, Patrick Ewing theory, that when a team loses their best player, they become greater than the sum of their parts because everyone else just ups it. Do you think it was just a case of that this evening, Kev, or is there something to this Inter side without him that
Yeah,
everyone just feels a little bit more free?
yeah, no, possibly. There was an element previously under Spalletti where they looked a little robotic. They were just going through the motions, and maybe that was playing or attempting to play to Icardi's strengths. You certainly saw Perisic have a much better game today. Whether that was him sort of bringing his level up because he knew he was um, making up for the loss of Icardi. But yeah, it just seemed to be a more of a desire from all of them to go out and grab the victory.
I thought Perisic was amazing, which I've not said for a while, and I thought I wouldn't say that about him in an Inter shirt again. I thought he would just move on, but he was really, really good. So was Politano. I was surprised when he got taken off. And although Lautaro Martinez has his flaws, he looks a bit light on his feet for someone who's going to lead the line. And he's not as clinical as his compatriot in front of goal. He seems to work quite nicely in that front three or four or whatever you want to call it. Vito, Rajan Angolan slotted in quite nicely there. He was not as lively in the first half rather, as in the second, but he looks like he's getting one step closer to being the Nangolan we all know.
On the basis of the goal against Sampdoria and also his assist last week against Parma, I'm sure a lot of people would like to think that he is slowly regaining his form and his confidence. I think it's important that he does, because despite his age, I think he can still be an important player for Inter if he's got his his mind on the game. If he just focuses on his football instead of smoking like a chimney, I think he can be an asset to this Inter side. And with the way things are due to this Icardi saga, I think his experience and his quality is much needed for Spalletti and his teammates.
Yeah, well, you've got, if he is going to play in that front four as well with Politano and Lautaro, they're not exactly experienced with playing in big matches and things like that, whereas Nangolan is, Perisic is. They could use their experience to be incredibly beneficial to that team. Kev, you weren't all that impressed with...
Well, yeah, I know before coming online, I said I wasn't that impressed with that. I'd actually let him off and say that it was more the team. I think the lack of Icardi meant that I was watching him and Martinez to see obviously how they were going to sort of interchange. And for the majority of the first period, Inter almost bypassed Nainggolan. They looked wide, or they looked beyond him. There was the moment when whoever it was played the ball forward for Martinez. They just seemed to be going above him or either side of him without actually getting the ball. Second half, when he was actually receiving the ball and he was looking for little 1-2s with Perisic and to create a lot more, it was a lot better. But they needed to actually get him on the ball if they're going to play him there behind a central striker.
Yeah, see, in the first half, it looked like a lot of the time Nainggolan was coming deep for that pass, but Inter were preferring to go a little bit more direct. You saw Gagliardini set Lautaro through early on with a great ball over the top. And a lot of the time, Inter were looking for that option rather than trying to play it through Nainggolan. It slightly changed in the second half because it wasn't quite working for them. But I'm hesitant to say he's back, but he's definitely on his way back. And Spalletti said as much in the press conference afterwards as well. He said I'm delighted with him. It's another step forward. He's doing things that he wasn't doing when we weren't happy with him. And yeah, he's on his way. There was one instance in the first half. I'm trying to picture which end it was at. Yes, it was the first half where there was a big switch over to Lautaro, I think, on the left. And I immediately looked to see where Nainggolan was, and he was still about 20 yards behind the play, trying his hardest to keep up, but he just couldn't. So he's still not quite at peak fitness, but maybe he won't ever get back quite to that level. But he's definitely showing signs of progress. Hamza has come in the comments, hello, to say that Epic Brozzo was good. What do you think, Vito?
He was good, but I probably think a few other players caught my eye a bit more than Brozovic, to be honest. To move away from Hamza's question, I thought Milan Skriniar had an excellent game, and the way Sampdoria was coming in the last 10 minutes, I thought Skriniar was the difference between Inter securing the 3 points and them possibly squandering the win and some getting a draw.
Yeah, just stick with the midfield before we go back to that. I think that balance of Brozovic and Gagliardini playing together kind of works. It works quite nicely, especially if Nainggolan's going to be the guy in front of them, because these two players have legs and they're more than willing to do the defensive work, especially Gagliardini. He is quite limited technically. So he's going to be the one who sits all the time, and Brozovic can move. And I thought that duo worked quite well, although Brozovic, I think, was probably the worst of Inter's players, with the exception of maybe Dalbert. I think Brozovic was probably the worst after him. But yeah, I think it worked. It worked okay. But you mentioned Skriniar. I was as impressed with him as I was with Stefan de Vrij. I was keeping quite a close eye on what Quagliarella was getting up to, and the answer was not very much, because de Vrij didn't leave him for a second. And the same was true of Skriniar with De Vrij. We do have another comment from Uyi who says that De Vrij wasn't effective. He was never really given a chance to be. The Inter defensive pairing has just proven so good. They, in all their Serie A games before today, there had only been 3 goals in 2019. I think it was a 1-0, a 1-0, a 0-0, and a 1-0 or something. And a large part of that is because of these 2 guys they've got at the back, Kev.
Yeah, and I think if it wasn't for them, they might have slipped to a couple of defeats maybe, because they've not been scoring goals, they've not been creating very much, and you look at the table and you see how they've managed to hold on to that 3rd place, and it's because of that sort of defensive resolve they've got there. With we always say about Handanovic is with the ball at his feet, but with those 3. They're not going to lose a lot of goals.
No, definitely not. Hamza has just said he has a strange feeling that City will sign Gagliardini, Manchester City, as a replacement for Fernandinho. But Gagliardini's passing is nowhere near good enough to play for Manchester City. So I don't think that will be happening. All right, guys. Let's
suit Everton.
Yeah. Is Hamza his agent?
Quite possibly. Right, let's address the elephant in the room. Mauro Icardi. I wrote about him in midweek. You can head over to ForzaItalianFootball.com and read that. Kev, is it time that Inter just cut their losses and let him move on?
Yeah, it definitely is. The problem I have with this now is the whole to-in and throw-in, and all the media attention this is getting, and stripping him of the captaincy. Is that you're showing your hand effectively to potential clubs. There are only a few that will probably pay the money that Inter want to actually get for him. And if they can actually generate enough cash to strengthen the side in other areas, then it's a win. It's a win-win for Inter, really. But I just think that the more they're showing everybody they need to get rid of him really quite quickly, because you want to end this situation fairly quickly in the summer. It's not going to help them.
No, but is it at the point now where they don't care? They just want him gone, and they're willing to lose 20 million on his fee?
Well, yeah, it might be. But I think Inter haven't got that luxury. They've got to, if they want to challenge Juve for a title or even leapfrog Napoli, they need money to actually bring in further playing resources.
It's hard to imagine anyone challenging Juve, which is quite a depressing reality. But Vito, what do you make of the whole Icardi situation? Because when I was sharing my article, I said it's that time of year again. Icardi has turned Inter into a circus, and it does feel like you could mark it in your calendar that every single season he will do something to annoy the Inter fans and cause unrest at the club. And for someone who's supposed to be a captain, who's supposed to be quite affectionate about this club, it's not acceptable.
Absolutely not. I think Icardi has been selfish in his attitude, but his wife and agent, Wanda, I think her attitude in this situation has been a lot worse. The way she conducts herself on social media, especially since December, I think shows a lack of professionalism on her part. It looks like she's clearly out for her own interests and maybe Mauro's, but it seems like she's more in it for herself than her husband. And I think this is bad for Inter because it looks bad on them as a club. And I'm sure that off the field, the way they interact in the locker room, training ground, and when they fraternize outside of the club surroundings, I'm sure this does not create a good atmosphere or create some good bonding sessions.
No.
Come to the point that do something about it.
Even off the pitch, though, the fans were so angry. I got the video. I only got the back end of the whistling by the time I realized. I just heard whistles and I didn't really know what was happening. And then I looked up at the screen, and then the whistles got louder and louder and louder as everyone realized why people were whistling. And then as soon as their picture disappeared off the screen, it just went dead silent. So it was clear that that's what was happening. And if you are a club who wants to buy a striker, and I know Icardi is incredible, he's possibly the best number 9 around, but he brings so much unnecessary baggage with him that it would put you off. And I don't want to bring up the whole thing with his teammates with Maxi Lopez before, but the fact is he has done that, which caused unrest. Now he is causing unrest by doing whatever he's doing. There are rumors that he's already agreed terms with Juventus. I'm not sure how true they are, but it's just unbelievable. Like, I don't even know what else to say, Kev, but Inter would probably be better off without him, even taking a loss on the field for, 6 months while they find a way to recover.
Yeah, it's interesting, the Juventus link, because they're probably the most stable club in Serie A, and then why would they even contemplate signing someone that could just rip through that dressing room, apparently, with one, I don't know. I was gonna go somewhere about teammates, but I won't.
No, but the thing about it is, I'm not saying he's going to Juve, because I do think they'd be crazy to take him. They don't need him. But if he did, his antics just wouldn't be tolerated there. Chiellini would smack him. Bonucci would smack him. They just wouldn't have it.
Not a chance.
Anyway.
They're very serious at Juventus, so it doesn't matter if it's just Chiellini or Bonucci. The rest of the club won't tolerate that, and I'm sure that if Icardi and Wanda step out of line, Andrea Agnelli, Pavel Nedved, Fabio Paratici, they will hold Icardi to account, and they'll make life living hell for those two if they go to Juventus. If Icardi does go to Juventus and he puts a foot out of line.
It does seem more and more likely that he's just going to end up at Real Madrid. I think that is, if he does move on, where he will end up. But Benzema's been fantastic this season, so maybe he wouldn't even get a look in. Anyway, that's enough. Inter, let's go to their cross-city cousins. AC Milan got a big, big win in Bergamo. They came from behind to beat Atalanta 3-1. And, Vito, is it too harsh to say they did it without even playing that well?
You can say that to a point, but I don't think it's overly harsh. Atalanta played very well when it came to the possession aspects of the game, but it was just when it came to that final third, Gomez and Zapata did not look as influential as they usually were. And the Milan back four played pretty well. Romagnoli was solid. And surprisingly, Mattia Musacchio, I thought, was good defensively, and he's usually more known for being a ball-playing defender. So it was good to see improvements in the defensive aspects of the game from him and from the Rossoneri in general. The big difference now is that when you have a striker like Piontek, he really made the difference, and he capitalized on those times where Atalanta's defense looked open, and you could see that the absence of Gianluca Mancini in defense eventually did hurt Ladea.
Yeah, well, the defense didn't even need to be that open because Piontek is just so lethal. That first goal, that equalizing goal, was phenomenal. That's got to be goal of the week, a contender for goal of the month, even goal of the season. To take it like that, Kev, I don't even know how to describe it.
Oh, it was beautiful. It's one of those. It's where the angle is just completely. You're expecting him to bring the ball down, try and turn onto his stronger right foot, and he just sort of hooks it not over his shoulder, but blind. Well, not even blindly, but it's just the way he uses. Just uses his body position to just hook it over his shoulder and beat the goalkeeper. It was wonderful.
What's impressive about him is, and I said this so many times this season, his movement. He does these little half runs just to confuse defenders and send them one way, and then he goes the other. And you could just see there's an excellent photo of when the ball just leaves Piontek's foot and Jim City's face. He just knows he's lost his man. He's in trouble because it's him. And
he's given them what they should have had with Higuain. They've gone to Atalanta. They're away from home. Atalanta are a couple of points behind. They're going to have the majority of the possession. They're the favourites for the game, essentially. But when you've got a striker that is taking majority of his chances, well, what's he? He's 7 in 8 or whatever the stats are. It fills you with that confidence that you can ride out the waves of sort of an Atalanta attack or just long spells of not having the ball, and that when the chance comes, he's going to stick it away. And for all of Higuain's credentials, he never really offered that for Milan this season too often.
He is frighteningly clinical. I know I'm quite reluctant to say it, but is it possible? Is it humanly possible for him to keep up this strike rate between now and the end of the season? Because it's not normal.
I think it will tail off a little, but I think he can. His goal scoring rate, I think, will still continue to the end of the season. It depends on what he does through the summer. Does his head get turned by other clubs? Does he sit on his holidays and think that he's maybe a little bit better and he has to not maybe work so hard, because he's obviously worked hard to get to the level he's at now. I don't know whether he takes a position in the national side ahead of Milik, and then that makes him, I think it's about mentality after the end of the season. I think he'll keep the run going until then.
It does seem like he has the right mentality, though. All of the players seem to love him. When he got the goal, the players were doing the pom 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 celebration. You could hear them say it, and you could see them do it. And he's just so loved. And as someone else, Vito, we were speaking about Milan defensively and how Musacchio looks like a competent defender now. A large part of that is surely to do with the fact that he's got Timo Bakayoko in front of him, providing this cover.
Bakayoko has really improved this season. It looks like he's returned to his Monaco form as opposed to looking at a place like he did at Chelsea. So I think that's been very beneficial for the defence, having cover in front of them. And also, in the midfield, they've got him just keeping the passes simple and probably makes things easier for the midfielders like Pakata and Kessie for him to do what he does. That midfield trio offers different characteristics. So they all have their own input, and Bakayoko has been fantastic in his role.
Vito, Milan now somewhat consolidating their place in the Champions League spots. Is it theirs to lose?
Now that there are only 14 rounds left, it's come to the point that it probably is the place to lose. And for many rounds, at least in the middle of the campaign, there weren't many points separating 4th and 12th. Now I see teams sort of wedging apart. There are other teams, including Milan, that are starting to really become more consistent and get more points on the board. So I think they'll have a good case to hold on. They should be able to do the form the players are in. And another thing too is that you just got the rivals below them, like Roma, Lazio. Then if you include Fiorentina, Torino, and maybe Samp, a lot of them are dropping off. Whereas with, let's say, Atalanta, I think it just might be a blip. But the way things are, maybe Atalanta will have to settle for Europa League action again.
I think they'd be more than happy to settle for European football, to be honest with you. Kev, we have another comment. Paqueta reminds someone of Marek Hamšík. Thoughts?
I don't know. He's he doesn't do, when you think about Hamsik when he first started at Napoli, he's not that, shall we say, all action driving midfielder, arriving late into the box to score. He's got a little bit more craft and guile and creativity in his past. Not that Hamsik didn't, but yeah, I think to compare the two would be a little difficult at this stage.
Yeah, okay. It was a stretch. But he does look exciting, to give him credit. Let's move on again. Vito, Genoa to Lazio 1. I didn't see this one coming, and I'm sure you didn't either.
No, not at all. But again, it looks like that Cesare Prandelli is doing a solid job there at Genoa. It must also be said that Lazio are still missing Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, so that probably helped Genoa a bit. That being said, I think Genoa should get credit for, keep on battling, even though Lazio had taken the lead and actually had some decent chances to add to that lead, but Radu had a top game. Then Sanabria scored his third goal in just 4 Serie A games, which is quite impressive considering he only scored 2 in 15 for Real Betis in La Liga. So um, it seems that they're getting on with life without Piontek and Sanabria, despite not looking like much at Roma. He seems to be maturing a little bit more and eager to prove himself. And I think having someone like him there makes a difference. And then Criscito, he's been one of the bandiere, so to speak, despite his spell at Zenit. And scored a real captain's goal there with that strike at the end. So I'm sure the Grifoni fans will be very happy with the captain and how he's been performing for them.
Yeah, Milan must be delighted too, because at least they know in the summer when Piontek moves on for 70 million to Barcelona, they can just go and snap up Sanabria. And of course, he'll just keep going at Milan the way he's been going at Genoa. That's how it works, Kev, right?
Yeah, I think Sanabria was a little lucky today. You think Lucas just smashed the ball into his shin, I think, and then it just sort of trickled past the goalkeeper.
It must have been heartbreaking for you to see Lucas guilty of something.
Oh, wow, yeah. But he should have. He didn't start, did he, for Lazio? Sorry, I saw the highlights, and I was just a little surprised at that. I think we were a bit surprised that Genoa won, but Lazio have looked a little out of sorts the last couple. I watched them against Sevilla in the week, and there's just something missing at the moment. They seem to be going through the motions and maybe need to pick up a lucky last minute win, a bit like Genoa, that maybe will snowball into a run of results and get them back into the discussion about Champions League qualification.
Yeah, it is quite unlike them all, right? Because a lot of people tip them to be almost nailed on for top four, especially given what was going on at the other clubs. But they're 4 points adrift of it now, and it's concerning for them, for Atalanta, for everyone else there, really. Except for Roma, obviously, because they play Bologna tomorrow. Anyway, next game up, where shall we go? Let's go to Spal 1, Fiorentina 4. This was quite exciting because Vito, Andrea Petagna, first things first, proved that he can score goals against other teams who are not named Atalanta. And to give him his credit, he's doing quite well with the Biancazzurri this season.
Well, he's scored 9 goals so far this season, which is his highest tally ever. I heard in the commentary that that's more Serie A goals in one season for him than what he did in 2 seasons with Atalanta. And I had a look. He's level with Leonardo Pavoletti from Cagliari and Mauro Icardi, so can't be doing too bad.
I didn't realize he had the same number as Icardi, actually. That is impressive. I really like Petagna. I was quite disappointed to see him move on from Atalanta, but not in a way that I didn't understand it, because Zapata came in and he can do everything Petagna does but score more goals, and so it's proven this season. But Kev, there was a situation in this. Uyu's commented, the Spal were hard done by the harsh realities of VAR.
Yeah, it was a strange one. It was the right call. Chiesa did get tripped in the box, but it's one of those things that does, for all the benefits of VAR, it does make you hate it. Because it's a bit. There's the scenario where you score and then you have to, your joy is tempered by the fact that you're waiting for some form of okay from the referee that the goal's going to count, and this is the opposite, where you've actually gone down and scored at the other end and then had a goal chalked off, a perfectly good goal chalked off, and then had a penalty conceded and scored against you. I can't see how they fix this, but there must be a better way of or a quicker way maybe.
No, this is fantastic. This adds to the drama. Everyone said that VAR would take away from the beauty, the drama would be gone. This is incredible.
The frustration, and more so for the people in the stadium than the people watching on TV.
Yeah, I will admit, it is frustrating when you're there and you don't know what's happening. even in the press area, we don't always have TVs, so we don't know what's happening half the time. Like even today, for example, when Nangolan scored that goal and they went to VAR, nobody knew why. Nobody knew what was happening, and then all of a sudden we were thinking, oh, maybe Inter haven't won it. But yeah, I like it. I'm team VAR. There are obviously some things that need to be ironed out, but no, leave it alone. Leave it alone, Kev.
It's better than the two officials that they put in the UEFA competitions just standing on the line doing nothing. So.
Yeah, the officials who aren't allowed to show they're doing anything, so everyone thinks they're not doing anything. I never really understood the implementation of that, but it is what it is. Vito, little Simeone scored, which is good for him.
Yeah, a very good goal too as well. Reminded me of the 2 goals Zurich Muriel scored a few weeks ago against Sampdoria. He just got the ball in his own half and just ran straight down the middle and then the angle drive. Just nice and simple, but you got to admire the persistence and the way he dribbled that distance. So that was incredible. When I think of something like that, if Fiorentina keeps scoring goals like that, not just Muriel Simeone, they might as well call it the goal alla Fiorentina, as opposed to which is known as the bistecca alla Fiorentina.
Oh, Vito, you never disappoint, ever. Anyway, let's move swiftly on from that. We've got Juve. They had a nice training match on Friday evening. They beat Forza only 3-0. Kev, I don't want to bore you, me, Vito, or the listeners by talking about that game, because what's the point? But Juve are in Champions League action in midweek. They travel to Madrid to take on Atletico, and that's going to be tricky for them.
Yeah, I think so. I think it doesn't help them really that they have the second leg in Turin, because I think Atletico will probably hold out. Well, they'll attempt to hold out for a 0-0 draw, maybe even. So then they've got the advantage of nicking a goal at the Allianz, and I think it's not going to be one for the neutral that's looking for sort of a high-scoring, entertaining game. But if you're a lover of tactical battles between two coaches, I think it can be quite interesting.
Well, I was at the fouliest game in Serie A this season the other week when Spal played Torino, and I think this might be the fouliest game in the Champions League, because you would imagine both will be very streetwise, shall we say, and just making tactical fouls all over the place. But this is a game that I love watching, just those dirty, disgusting, not very sportsmanlike games. It's what football's all about. That and cheating and VAR being controversial. It's great. I love it.
And there will be VAR.
There will be VAR. The VAR was used excellently in the Real Madrid game last week, even though, despite acknowledging that it was used well, people still complained and said it was wrong, which I didn't really understand. There were a lot of articles moaning about its use, despite the first line saying it got the decision right, which I don't really get. Anyway, that's enough Juve. Vito, Cagliari came from behind in Sardinia to beat Parma after Juraj Kucka scored an incredible header. Leonardo Pavoletti scored with his foot. But what on earth was Luigi Giuseppe doing? He kind of like jumped over the ball.
He didn't read the ball that was coming in, because I think it was a free kick from Cagliari that got launched into the box. Then one of the players, I think it was Cepitelli, that headed the ball there. And then Pavoletti, as we know, is a guy that relies on his head to score goals, but he slid in and got the ball. He made it 1-1. But one would think that Seppe would have read that header better and be able to anticipate the ball before Pavoletti did. So it seemed like either Seppe was caught in two minds, or he just wasn't alert enough to how Cagliari had constructed that attack.
Yeah, it was quite bizarre, because he didn't really do anything. He just kind of moved himself towards the other post and never really made an attempt to say. I thought it was quite unusual.
I think you're doing him a slight disservice. I think it was at a height and it was dropping at a rate that, if it had been higher, he could come and claimed it in the air. It was almost at that mid-height, and I think it's cowardice more than anything else that sort of then leads him to not want to go for the ball because he's either going to clatter into the person coming, and he can't go and meet the ball at their feet for fear of like throwing his head while they're possibly throwing their body as well. Yeah, I think you can give him a little bit of credit, but it was still a mistake.
I'm not sure. I've seen this too many times with him this season. In terms of being a shot stopper, I genuinely think he's one of the best in Serie A. He makes saves that he just shouldn't be able to make. His reach when he jumps is incredible. But he just has this tendency to not think. Like crosses come into the box, he does crazy things. People pass the ball to him, he loses his head and does two things and nothing together. And this just seemed to be one of those. Once he realizes that he's not going to come out, he should surely just jump across his line and try and stop the shot that Pavoletti's about to take. But instead he just kind of walked over. I don't get what he was doing, but I don't want to beat on Sepe again because I've done it a few times this season. He is my Robin Olsen. So we'll let him get off peacefully this week. Vito, Empoli got what was, I think is fair to say, a surprise 3-0 win at home to Sassuolo.
I would have expected a closer game, but surprisingly, Empoli did win by 3 goals, and the goals they scored were rather fantastic as well. Well, the second goal was probably the so-called ugliest one of the lot because it was Aqua that scored from a Farias slow cross. And Farias, in fact, scored a nice solo goal to make it 3-0 in the second half. But the best goal was the first one by Rade Krunic. He got the ball in his own half, dribbled about past 2 or 3 defenders, and then he had put a nice delicate chip over Andrea Consigli. So in a season in which we've seen some spectacular goals, such as the few Sampdoria have scored, with Quagliarella, Saponara, Ramirez and Caprari, and then Gervinho with his solo run against Cagliari early in the season, I think this Krunic goal should be up there with them. It was that good.
Big praise, especially as someone who's been at a few of those goals in the flesh. It's a big shout, Vito. Very big shout. There was more far drama, Kev, as Chievo beat Udinese, the other way around. Udinese beat Chievo. And that kind of takes us on to the discussion about the bottom 3, because it's hard to... It was looking like things might get interesting. Frosinone and Chievo are probably done. And do you think Bologna might have just left things a little bit too late? They're 3 points from safety now with Empoli winning. Do you think they can still mount some sort of comeback?
I think it will depend on how they get on tomorrow against Roma. But I think that was it was less about what Bologna can do now and the fact that was a huge result for Udinese, really. Because not only from the perspective that they get another 3 points, but it's that if they lost to Chievo, of all teams, really, I think it could have been soul destroying for the players that are there and trying to sort of fish out the sort of morale that they're going to need to actually have a drive to keeping themselves up.
It is difficult. I'm going to push you. Give me 3 names. Who's going down?
Well, Chievo and Frosinone. And no, I'll set up Bologna.
Yeah,
I was going to say Empoli might still get sucked down, but Bologna.
Vito, 3 names, please.
Definitely Chievo. Frosinone, I don't think it'd be that easy. I think they might have a little bit of fight, but they'll eventually go down. And I'm going to still tip Udinese to get relegated. I think Empoli and maybe even Bologna with Mihalovic there, they've got some hope. But that's just me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I agree with you both on Chievo and Frosinone. I think they're in trouble. I don't know. I quite fancy Bologna to just do it now that Mihalovic is there. And looking at those teams, who knows? I don't want Spal to go down, but I could see them getting sucked into it. They're terrible at home. They're really, really bad at home. And it's so important to not be bad at home if you want to stay up. And I have a bad feeling Spal will get dragged down into it. But anyway, let's end by talking about something a little bit unusual. Pro Piacenza. We're all over Twitter today because after, what was it, half an hour, they were 16-0 down in a game because they were playing with 7 players, including, I believe, their kit man.
Yeah,
Kev?
the kit man. Yeah, 39-year-old kit man. Because
Who
one of
was
the players had forgot their registration.
their 39-year-old kit man, who was more than twice as old as the player manager on the day because he was just 19. The game finished 20-0. But this isn't good, Vito, because there are things happening off the pitch that are less than savoury.
No, it's farcical that the game went on as it did. And unfortunately, Pro Piacenza, another one of those Italian clubs that have been suffering from serious financial problems. And we've seen it a lot in the last few years in the lower divisions, not just at the top. They're all these small clubs, they struggle financially. And I think since October, the Pro Piacenza senior players haven't been paid. And they've had about 3 forfeits already. So Pro Piacenza had to play this game because if they didn't, they would be thrown out of the Gruppo Girone in Serie A. So that's why we had to witness this farce.
Yeah, it is worth pointing out because a lot of people were reporting them as being the Serie A side. They're not. Pro Piacenza are bottom with just 8 points, 12 points adrift of the team directly above them, although they've barely played any games.
The old Serie A side is near the top.
Yeah, well, they're level on points with Pro Vercelli. Piacenza sits second, but they have played 2 games more than Pro Vercelli, so they are flying, to be fair. But yeah, it's unfortunate that an Italian team was in the news for such terrible reasons. We have a question. This is Serie C, Girone A, I believe. So yeah, not great for the 3rd tier of Italian football, but it's not exactly surprising given how some things in this country run. Anyway, guys, I think that is it. So unless either of you have anything else to say, we can call it a day.
That's probably about it. But speaking of Serie C, I just want to quickly point out that in the southern group, which is Girone C, there was a game between 2 of the top teams, Juve Stabia and Catanzaro midweek, ended 0-0, but Juve Stabia could have lost for the first time if the Catanzaro for Giannone did not try and do a Panenka or a Cucchiaio. But he did, and he did a Marcus Swell and chipped it right into the keeper's hands. So remember, don't bother with that stuff. If you're going to score, just bang the ball in, please. I don't care who you are.
If you're not Sergio Ramos, don't do it. You can't do it.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're not playing at the absolute elite level, you should not be trying that. But I like that they try it because it gives us something to laugh at. Okay, quickly, Hamza has asked who's going to win the Champions League.
I see. Yeah, I'll take my Liverpool hat off for a moment, shall I? I would really like Juventus to win it.
What?
No, see, no, I have a. It's more a. It's because of sort of they've had that generation of players that haven't won that crown, and there's a little bit of me that wants them to do it, but now Buffon's left. There's a little bit of me that now wants, PSG, another club that you can't really warm to. Now they've got Buffon. There's a little piece of me that wants him to win that, and it's that generation of Italian defenders, I suppose, at Juventus, more so the club, that I would not mind seeing lift the famous old trophy.
Yeah, do you know what? I understand what you're saying. The year they lost to Barcelona, when they had, or was it when they lost to Real Madrid?
Pirlo, Pogba.
Yeah, that's it. Bonucci, Barzagli, Chiellini, Buffon, the whole lot. I did kind of want them to do it then, for the players more than the club.
Yeah, then, as a club, hard to warm to.
A lot of people at that club listen to this podcast, so let's not get into it too much, especially in the press office, and they let us go to games. So anyway, yeah, I can't bring myself to want Juventus to win it this year, especially since Cristiano Ronaldo went. And there's just something funny about if Madrid won it. I don't really want them to win it, but it'd be nice for them to win it without Ronaldo. I'd love Atletico Madrid to win it, to be honest, but I can't see it. They're too
I thought
inconsistent.
you were going to go Liverpool for a moment.
No, but I could see that happening. Liverpool are a really good team, but they're not very likable if you're Irish and don't support them. So, yeah, I want Atletico Madrid to win it, but I don't think they will. Who do I think will?
They're overdue.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? And the finals at the Wanda Metropolitano this season, so that would be fantastic. Vito, have you got a prediction?
Look up. I reckon whoever wins the Juventus Atletico tie is good enough to win it, but I do fancy Liverpool's chances, especially now that they got Alisson instead of Carrier. So I think that helps them a lot. I don't believe Real Madrid or Barca will win it. I don't think they've got the edge this year, but that's just my view. But I wouldn't rule out City just yet, but I'm not completely sold on them either. So probably between Juve and Atletico.
Kev's face just turned into a smile when you mentioned Liverpool. His face was gone. It was just
Oh, I like a little support from my fellow podcasters.
You've not got it from me.
Look, they had a great run last year, but I see with this Liverpool team, I think with the extra additions over the summer, it looks like it's not going to be a one-off. At least there's a bit of extra depth. It's just a matter if they can sustain their run both in the Premier League and in the Champions League.
I wonder if we'll see a surprise winner this year. Someone like Tottenham. You know, the way they played against Dortmund. It's interesting this year, as opposed to other years, they draw the quarter-final and semi-final almost route at the next UEFA draw. So you can almost plan. You can sort of plan who you're going to get in the next round, so to speak. And teams with huge resources like City or teams like PSG that have got their league sewn up would know who potentially they've got in the next rounds.
I hate that. The Coppa Italia does that, and it really irritates me as well. The tree instead of the open draw. But I don't know about having the league sewn up thing, if it works. We've seen Bayern in recent seasons have the Bundesliga done by February, and then they're terrible in the Champions League because they're not playing really competitive football. Anyway, this is probably a conversation for another time. Do let us know in the comments before it shuts off who you guys think will win the Champions League, if you think Juve have a chance, or maybe Roma will go on a fantastic run again. But I won't hope.
Zaniolo.
Yeah, the
Kakaesk 2007.
All right, guys.
Thanks for that, Vito.
We will leave it there. Hamza, we're not answering who will win the Europa League because Atalanta aren't in it, so we're not interested. So, guys,
Sampdoria 2021.
Stop this.
I hope. I hope to be there.
I need to rein this back in. Vito, thank you very much. I will speak to you again next week.
No, he's Connor.
Kev, thank you to you too.
My pleasure.
And for all of you listeners, head over to ForzaItalianFootball.com. Read what I wrote about Mauro Icardi. Read what I wrote from the game today. Watch what I said from the game today. Kev has something going up on Aaron Ramsey. There's also something written by Tom Probert going up on Aaron Ramsey. And there will be a lot of other things to come during the week too. So head over to ForzaItalianFootball.com for all of your Serie A opinion, news, match coverage, everything. And remember, #FIF at the games. That's all there is for me to say until next time. So it's ciao for now.